Once upon a time, there was a boy, and the boy was called David, and he was born very, very small. In fact, he was born about 1 month early, and he was about 2 kilos, which is about the size of a bag of rice, a small bag of rice. And he was so small that he had to go into an incubator, which is like a small box, which is warm, to keep him from staying alive. And his mom would look in this little plastic box and see a tiny, tiny boy just sleeping all the time. And the nurses would have to feed him with a special bottle and special milk because it was so small that he couldn't fit a normal bottle in. He stayed there for about 2 months until he was about 2.8 kilos and he came out, and that's when his mom could feed him. His mom was always worried about him, and when he was small, like 2 years old, he still couldn't walk. Mom started to get worried, so she took him to the hospital, and the doctor said, Just wait, he'll be okay. Don't worry too much. If he can't walk by the time he's 4, bring him back. She waited and waited and waited. He was 3.5 and he still couldn't walk. He could crawl really well, and he could stand up just, but he couldn't walk. And on his 4th birthday, his mom made an appointment to go to the doctor the next day. And would you believe it? When they were singing happy birthday to him, he stood up, blew out the candles, and ran around the table. The people at the party could not believe their eyes. Here he was, a boy who was born so early, so small, had waited 4 years to take a single step. But that was just the beginning. You see, this boy, from his 4th birthday until his 10th birthday, just grew stronger and stronger and stronger. Nobody knew what had happened. And by the time he was 10, he was stronger and faster than anybody in his school, and anybody in his village, and anybody in his city, and even anybody in his whole country. One day, a very famous coach heard about this boy who had come from not being able to walk at 4 to being able to run faster than anybody else in his city and country by the time he was 10. He was even faster than all the boys in the high school. The coach knocked on his door. "Hello, is David there?" And his mom said, "He's out the back running around the garden, doing some jumps." So the coach walked through the house. "Would you like a cup of tea, coach?" "Yes, please." So while the mom was making the tea, the coach stood on the step and looked out to the back garden and saw this boy running around like he had endless energy. His legs were like a 15-year-old's, and he ran for hours. When he came in, he wasn't even out of breath. He sat down, drank a glass of water, and he's like, "Hello, who are you?" "I am the coach of the Olympic team. We want you to be in the Olympics to play for your country." "Really? But I'm only 10. "Exactly. Well, you're going to be in the Youth Olympics first, so that's for like up to 16-year-olds. And then you can go into the proper Olympics for the adults when you're older than 16. So the coach chatted to him and his mom for about 2 hours. And the coach made a plan with the mom and said, "I'm going to take David to the training center, which is a long way away. He can come and visit you on the weekends, or you can come to see him at the weekends. And then after 3 months, he'll have a week where he can come home. He can go to school there, and he'll train every single day. And we believe that your son can be the next Olympic gold medalist when he's 16. And surely he'll be the youth medalist, the gold medal, every year from 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Well, this was just a dream come true for the mom, who was worried about her son for 4 years straight. And on his 11th birthday, he took a trip down to the city, to the capital of the country, where this head coach was, and he joined all the other youth team. It was amazing for David to be in a group of people that were just like him, running around all the time with endless energy and really nice muscles, and didn't get tired and ate nice food and just thought about exercise all the single time. Some of his friends at school just wanted to play games and sit on the sofa. Not David, he wanted to run around. Some of his friends just liked going to the shops, going shopping, going to the restaurant, talking about silly things like people and what they're wearing and telly and YouTube. But David just wanted to run around. He liked talking about sports and exercise. And then at this special academy, he started to learn about sports. And the coaches told him how to run properly and how to hold your arms and hands and where you should put your legs and what exercises you should do for which muscles and how to really get the best out of your body to be the best runner or the best athlete. It was like another world to David, and he had such a good time that he soon became top of the class in his academy. Not only was he the fastest and the strongest, he was also the best in the class, and he always got A's. When he called his mom and dad to tell them the news, they just were so happy. Every time they put the phone down, Mom would cry a bit, but that's because she was so pleased. She could never really imagine when he was 1, when he was 2, when he was 3, even all the way up to his 4th birthday, she would never imagine that he would be such an amazing athlete. So after the first semester, the coach said, right, it's time for some training, for some practice competitions. So they went to the national competitions, and surely enough, David won everything. He came out top. Next, during the summer holidays, they took an airplane and the whole team went to another country where all the countries in Europe had a big competition. David was the top of that one as well. And so it went on when he was 12 and 13 and 14. And then the president of his country and the president of the Olympics did something amazing. They made a special exception and made a letter so David could go into the Olympics with all the other adults. And how old was he? He was like 14 years old. David's mom almost fainted when she picked up the phone, and he's like, I'm going to the Olympics. You see, the Olympics is every 4 years. And it just so happened the Olympics was when he was 14. And if he didn't do it then, he would have to wait till he was 18. And that would just be 2 years after he was able to. And so the Olympics boss and the president decided, well, he's ready now, and although he's 2 years early, we need to have him in the Olympics now because he's so good. The coach was the proudest coach in the world, and he took David under his arm. And on the flight, with all the other athletes, they went to the Olympic Village, where all the athletes stayed throughout the Olympics. It was the most watched Olympics around the world. 2.5 billion people tuned in every single day to watch the sports. The most people tuned in when David was running. In fact, some of the TV programs had to hire more people to make sure that the electricity didn't go off in some places. And the advertisements were charging us so much money to get in front of the telly. And then it was time. David was there in the big arena with 50,000 people watching and 2 billion people watching on telly. This was his big chance. He crouched down, put his fingers on the line and one knee on the line, and got ready. The man on the side lifted his gun and bang! They were off. David was running with men like 20 years old, 24 years old, 10 years older than him, and he was 14. He was the smallest But that didn't mean anything today, because he ran like he'd never ran before. And he could feel his mom and dad cheering, and the coach cheering, and everybody cheering in the stadium. And when he got to the front, he could even feel the people watching on telly as they got off their sofa and the chairs and were standing and clapping all around the world. It's as if the world was shaking and watching him. He pulled out in front, and he was ahead of the person number 2 by about 10 meters. And then he crossed the line, and he fell onto his knees and looked up and held his hands up, and he cried, and he remembered all the days that his mum was worried, and all the trips to the doctors, and everything that people had been saying for years and years until his birthday. And then everything changed on that day and just got better and better. A few hours later, he went to the podium and stood on the box that said number 1, and the president of the Olympics put the gold medal around his neck and shook his hand, and a woman gave him some flowers, and he held them up, and the flashes of the lights almost made him blind because they were taking the pictures. He looked into the crowd and saw his mommy and daddy shaking their hands like, yay! And then they ran down, gave him the flag of his country, and he ran around the track with his medal and his flowers. And as he was running, even though it was noisy, almost deafening because of the claps and the cheers, he felt very peaceful, as if there was no noise. And he thought to himself, this is what it's all about. This is why I was born, to be the gold medal champion of the world. And he felt very peaceful. And after that, he was on TV for the interviews, and even Roald Dahl, who died, his son wrote a book about him, about his journey from not being able to walk to being the gold medalist. And he became so famous. And he was in the books that children would read, and that they would want to be the gold medalist. And so he was also a teacher now, and he would train the children. He became the head coach of the school, of the country's running team. And that's the story of David, the boy who couldn't walk for 4 years, becoming the gold medalist of the world. The end.